How does abortion regulation in the United States compare to the rest of the world? There is this perception in the wake of the Dobbs v. Jackson decision by the U.S. Supreme Court that the United States is somehow regressing in this area, and that the rest of the world, particularly the industrialized nations of the West, are less restrictive when it comes to abortion regulation. But is this true? Take, for instance, the Nordic countries, Sweden, Denmark, Norway, Finland. These countries are often regarded by feminists and progressives as being a model for the rest of the world. And yet, in each of these countries, abortion on demand is limited to 12 weeks. Not to mention, these policies are usually accompanied by other regulations that limit access to abortion in certain circumstances. Now, compare that to the Mississippi law at issue in Dobbs v. Jackson that allowed abortions up to 15 weeks. And then there's the rest of mainland Europe. In most of these countries, 12 weeks with exceptions thereafter is the norm. France allows abortions up to 14 weeks after recent changes in the law. And even in countries like the United Kingdom that allow abortions up to 23 weeks, there are requirements such as doctor certifications and counseling for those seeking such services. And then there are countries that are even more strict in their regulations. The Republic of Ireland didn't even allow abortion up until 2018. In Poland and Brazil, abortion is illegal with exceptions. Italy allows abortion on demand up to the first 90 days, and then thereafter only with certain exceptions. Japan and the Netherlands are outliers with more lax terms, but still regulated. Israel requires the approval of a committee. Canada and China are on the more extreme end of the spectrum with little to no regulation of abortion. Prior to the Dobbs v. Jackson decision, the U.S. was also in this category. Because of the precedents in Roe v. Wade and Planned Parenthood v. Casey, states in the U.S. were basically limited to regulating abortion somewhere in the 24 to 28 week range. One of the many good results of the Dobbs decision is that it now allows states to take a more balanced approach to this issue. Even in states like Oklahoma with very strict regulations, there are still exceptions. And then there are those states that impose 6-week limitations based on the fetal heartbeat criteria. But those states are still much closer to the international norm than states like California, Illinois, and New York that, depending on your interpretation of the law, allow abortions in some cases right up until the moment of birth. These states in many cases also eliminate reasonable regulations such as parental notification. Those states demonstrate that the only way in which the United States is an outlier is in the fact that some states are allowed to have extremely lax policies on abortion. Now, the laws of the United States certainly should not be based on what the rest of the world decides. But on this issue, most countries set a fairly decent example. Instead of being maligned, the majority opinion in the Dobbs v. Jackson decision should be praised, not just for the legal soundness of the decision, but also because it finally gave states in the U.S. the opportunity to achieve a better balance on this issue.